So Jim, I'm involved in GladiaCoin. As you know, I've just recently made up my mind. I really need to get involved in Bitcoin, and I really think that's the place to be, along with other cryptocurrencies that I'm currently involved in. But there are so many economic and political indicators that are pointing to the fact that we need to get out of the traditional banking system, and that's one of the main motivational factors that I have personally. And I'm also focusing a lot of effort trying to show people, teach people, train people how to develop alternative sources of cash flow, multiple revenue streams, so they can get away from their slave job and be more independent. So, there's a variety of factors that are all pointing to the fact that, what's going on here with GladiaCoin is really right up the alley that I want to go. And so I appreciate your comments from earlier in the week, and I'd like to just get your insights as to what you've been seeing. Since I'm brand new, I have been seeing the deposits go in daily to my Bitcoin wallet, and that's exciting. So I see it working. But you've been in it a little bit longer. You've seen some things, and so I'd just like to get some of your insights on what you've seen with our own team. The people that brought you in, which are really part of our own team as we go forward in this. So let me know.
Sure.
Give me some insights there.
First heard about Bitcoin several years ago. A gentleman who owns or runs an online newspaper called Freedom's Phoenix. He had introduced me to Bitcoins, and I had what I had done is I had approached him about looking into carat bars. Now, carat bars are 1 gram, 2.5, and 5 gram bar sizes that are embedded on a card about the size of a credit card. This guy that I thought was a liberty-minded guy, and he's a libertarian. He was way more excited about Bitcoin than he was about my carat bars gold. And I understand that people kind of go down different roads and discover different things at different times. And I think at that time, it was running about $250, $300 for one Bitcoin, and I kind of thought, well, why would I want something like that when I can hold it in my hand like this carat bar right here? So anyway, I kind of moved on, and just over the last few years, I think that was probably around 2014, maybe 2013. Had a friend of mine over in California here back in early February contact me about that he was doing some stuff in Bitcoin, and obviously being familiar with it and having kind of looked at it from time to time, I decided to take a little harder look at it. So one of the things that I found very interesting was that I didn't know before was the independent nature of Bitcoin in terms of it being independent of governments and banks, and that appealed to me. Trying not to make this a long interview, Mark, but I think I'll get to the point. Is that I was familiar with Bitcoin. I did know, I had some ideas about how it worked and that type of thing. I was unfamiliar that there were 100 million bits in one Bitcoin. That was kind of exciting to find that out. But
wow.
Anyway, this friend of mine over in California had not only introduced me to Bitcoin, but he also introduced me to this company called GladiaCoin. Now, GladiaCoin, basically what they do is they're going to, first of all, they will double your Bitcoin in 90 days if you did absolutely nothing but let them invest and trade your Bitcoin. So GladiaCoin works with a number of professionals around the world that are professional traders, and they buy and sell Bitcoin on such an ongoing basis that they make money whether it's going up or it's going down. It doesn't matter. But for the use of your Bitcoin, they're going to pay you out a minimum of 2.2% every day. And over that period of 90 days, if you just put your Bitcoin with GladiaCoin and let them trade it, you would double your Bitcoin. If, however, you decide that you want to refer some people and use the binary network and the binary bonus, then it can double way faster. And that's why I'm here today, is to share some of my experience with you. So basically, I started February 15th, and I started at a what's called Spartacus 2, which is a tenth of a Bitcoin. And, for me, it was an out-of-pocket and exchange rate of about $120 US dollars. And so anyway, I got started at that time, set up a blockchain account, blockchain wallet, which is where I store my Bitcoin. And then I made my initial deposit, if you want to call it that, with GladiaCoin so that they could start trading my Bitcoin. Well, within a few days, I started noticing that I was starting to get some payouts to my blockchain account. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. These guys are not just holding on to it. They're actually putting it in my wallet instead of leaving it in their system.
Yeah, it's not just showing up somewhere as a artificial figure.
Right,
it's in your account.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a real positive for me. And so anyway, after a few days, and then starting to do some more, starting to watch a few videos, quite honestly, of some other people who had been with GladiaCoin. GladiaCoin only started in December, so December 1st, and some of the people that we're connected with, they really didn't even get going until late January, early February. So, matter of fact, my friend John in California, he had just started about a week before I had. And they had a lot of people. First of all, okay, we are kind of talking with people who are already familiar with some, cryptocurrency to some extent. While I think there's still a lot of people who are very, very unfamiliar with it. For those of us who have kind of kept an eye on it, we realize that there's I hate to use this word because just because sometimes it's associated with other things, but there is an opportunity. When I say opportunity, I mean that there are different things that come along from time to time that are trends, and those trends we'll see. Like, as an example, elderly healthcare right now. That is a growing area. That is something, because there's so many baby boomers who are going to be reaching senior age and retirement. Those are things that are now, that's a growing industry, and it'll continue to grow, as will long-term care and those types of things. But in the case of Bitcoin, this is a digital currency that when you take a look around and you see a world that's trying harder and harder to become more and more independent, it just makes sense that as you look at the numbers, which is back in like 2009, 2010, I mean, you could get Bitcoin for very, very little. And they would only have like a couple of hundred transactions a day. Well, look at it as recently as a report I saw in December of this past year, 2016. There's like 300,000 transactions a day, and the Bitcoin is up around at that time about $800 or $900 per Bitcoin. And since that time, it's gone up to almost 1,300, which is more than 1 ounce of gold. So anyway, when you take a look at what these guys are doing with the trading, then it makes sense how they're able to deposit, almost daily, depending on how you're set up. You can, as soon as, immediately you can get daily deposits. However, depending on your pace, you might see those payouts come out, every 2 or 3 days, depending on your situation.
Okay.
So, what happened with me is after about 3 or 4 days, I saw the growth, saw what was going on. And again, I'd watched some videos of other people who had really kind of jumped in more with both feet than I had. And they were having like really, really good results. And those are people that are friends of mine, and then people that they knew that they were connected with, who introduced them to GladiaCoin. So I saw some really, nice, attractive numbers that some of these guys were getting paid out on a daily basis, and I thought, well, what the heck, if I just really, put an effort in here for, 30, 45 days at least, let's just see what happens. And so I decided I wanted to have a little more skin in the game, so I decided to bump up to what's called Spartacus 4, which is half a Bitcoin. So I made that little jump.
So that's
And
about $500-600, huh?
yeah, I think it was around $500-600 at that time total. And and then in the meantime, I started referring a few of my friends. And I kind of watched this thing, and I kept getting every 3 days, I get this little payout. And I was and there was one important thing I missed. And I'm going to say about 3 weeks into the game, I realized I did not have a direct referral on my right. I had been trying to build, a group of or build volume on my left side. I'm sorry, on my right side, but my left side, I had not introduced anyone into that. I'll call it a team or whatever leg, whatever you want to call it. And so as a result, I was not qualified for the binary bonus. Well, and there came a point I kind of stumbled upon it, quite honestly, because what I decided to do is when I saw some numbers starting to increase in my blockchain account, my wallet, I thought, you know what, I've got enough here to start a couple of other GladiaCoin positions. And these guys are talking about have one on your left and have one on your right. So you actually have other positions to your original position. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. So I pulled the trigger and got another position on my left, which was the first position that I'd had on that team. And then I bought a position on the right. Well, that triggered, that was like triggering a winning slot machine in Vegas, because
Oh boy.
I had all this point build up on both sides that I wasn't able to access because I had not done a direct referral and qualified for the binary bonus. So when I did that, all of a sudden the next day I get this huge payout. It was, for me, I say huge. It was more than what I had if you want to call it invested. It was more than I had in it. One thing that's really cool is on their website, they'll show you every single transaction from the very beginning.
Yeah, so you have a running total. Some people are skeptical about, you said 2.5% a day, and I can say I'm an experienced foreign currency trader, which is exactly what these guys are doing. This is a currency. And in fact, I've traded professionally, I've traded for clients, I've traded for a hedge fund. I'd mention, a return like, 8 or 10% a month, and people would laugh. They go, "Are you crazy? Where do you get that?" Well, they simply don't understand that when you're trading, you could generate 10% in a day. Not that you do it every day, but those are real figures, when you're actually in the marketplace and you know what you're doing. So 2.5% a day is not that much, but it's great.
Yeah, and I imagine those traders aren't always disclosing how much they're actually making, because usually they have agreements to pay a minimum amount, and they oftentimes will keep, whatever their earnings are beyond that. And that's exactly what GladiaCoin is doing. So anyway, so here it is. I found it is on 4 weeks to the day later from when I started with GladiaCoin. And again, it was a few days before I bumped up to a couple of positions there to get to a half Bitcoin. On March 15th, they did a payout of 0.573333 Bitcoin. Now, you and I both know that's over half, and based on today, I think today it's around 950 last time I saw it. So let's just round it to 1,000, because it's been kind of going up and around that $1,000 exchange rate now for a couple of weeks. So
yeah.
that'd be equivalent of about what I put into it, that 0.57. So I think I was in the neighborhood of close to 600 in terms of what I had in it. So then the next day, I qualified for, because I had upgraded, now I was qualifying instead of a 9% bonus, I was qualifying for an 11% bonus. So the next day I got 0.13 Bitcoin, the day after that 0.06, and I think this is when it really started becoming consistent for me, is March 19th, which today is the 25th. So you're talking last Sunday, all right? I got 0.85 Bitcoin on that day.
Not bad.
0.85, that's close to 1 Bitcoin.
It's close to $1,000 bucks, yeah.
The next day I got 0.12. The next day I got 0.62. The next day I got 1.04 Bitcoin. The next day I got 0.79. The next day 0.29. Yesterday I got 0.4. So these numbers are starting to add up. My total earnings at this point in terms of Bitcoin is I've earned over 5 Bitcoin in a little over 5 weeks, starting with half a Bitcoin.
Wow, so that's looking at percentages, about 1,000% gain on what you did in about 5 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
And that would be a combination of the increase on your original account plus the bonuses for the binary, right?
Right. So that's just, actually that is just the earnings. So that does not include. So yeah, I've got 5.15 in earnings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that is, and the key is, if you want to just get Bitcoin and let GladiaCoin do the trading for you and just sit on it, I mean, that's fine. I mean, they're going to double your Bitcoin in 90 days, which most people would say, wow, that's great. And I've had a few people kind of raise their eyebrows about that, and they just decide, you know what, I'm just going to do this. I just want to, this seems like it's working pretty well for the people that are involved in it. And then for those people who want to treat it more like an opportunity to where you can really acquire a significant amount of Bitcoin, a company does basically show their appreciation for your referrals in the way of bonuses. And these bonuses are what can really add up. So, ultimately I want to, you want to get to what's called a Spartacus 7. And that's where you max out. You're trading. They are trading for Bitcoin in those types of positions, and we are seeing some people that are doubling their Bitcoin in as little as a day.
Every day, doubling every day.
Yes.
So that's the old mental image of taking a penny and doubling it every day. And what do you end up with in a month's time? Wow, that's pretty serious.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial. So, I mean, to me, one of the most important things is diversification. So when you start talking numbers and things like that, I mean, this quickly could get into something where you have a pretty significant amount of Bitcoin. And that's one of those, I mean, we're in Bitcoin. I'm in Bitcoin because I'm trying to diversify. I'm trying to find, another source, like you said earlier, of some other source that, if the bottom falls out or whatever, that I've got something I can go to. Who knows what's going to be the most widely accepted form of currency? We don't know. I mean, A lot of people say it's gold. Some people say, well, other currencies. But the Bitcoin is attracted to especially the younger crowd. The number of people that are running to these cryptocurrencies is, growing enormously. And, with our devices that we, our handheld devices and computer, everything. I mean, the fact that we can do some kind of a transfer of value from, let's say, from me to you. You're in Panama, I'm in Arizona. I mean, that if we went through PayPal, they're going to keep 3.25%, I believe, is what it is. And if we go through Bitcoin, they're going to keep like pennies. Like literally pennies.
Yeah.
Bitcoin. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go through any kind of approval process or any of that other, but you already know that. So anyway, Mark, that's kind of been my experience. I continue to talk to people about this because I do see this as something that is going to have a significant growth. The stories I'm hearing from other people, I just talked to one of the people I introduced this to here a couple of weeks ago. The first time I talked to him, he was very resistant. It was like, oh no, not another one of these things, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. So he was pretty resistant, and then finally, I just sent him a link. There's one video I like, which is five top reasons to invest in Bitcoin. It's a short little video, but it does kind of point out the major reasons why somebody would want Bitcoin for one. So after this guy who had referred to GladiaCoin, after he had watched a couple of these, he was like, "Hey, when can we get together?" Because he saw, what this was and what it represents. And I said, whenever you have time. So we got together, and here after about a couple of weeks, yesterday he called me. He's got people he works with that are, they see a program like this, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you come across somebody who says, "I really like this a lot, and I have the funds to just buy, like 7 positions at a Spartacus 7 or, something like that." And I mean, you just never know who you're going to run into, who knows that, first of all, most of us should know, at least by now, there's 2 ways to make money. You either go out and work for it, or it works for you. And the people who find out how to get money to work for you, whatever form it is, are the ones who end up having money. As a result of that, they have the time, they have the freedom, the ability to do the things they want to do. Me personally, I want to do some really wonderful things. I mean, I want to leave a legacy on this planet that I did some really good things in the world. I do believe I am a steward of everything I have, and just like the parable of the talents, it's really important to me to multiply those talents, whatever that is, as much as I possibly can, and that bring other people to to peace and maybe even a relationship with Christ. But
yeah, well, that's the whole point of freedom, and is being able to do what you want to do, and not being tied to the corporate treadmill, tethered, with a ring in your nose, where the only energy you have is to do that every day, come home, collapse, and try and put the pieces of your family back together. And that's what life is all about. That's the essence of life, is allowing our spirit to grow and give and share and participate in moving our world forward. And that's what freedom is all about. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people, is that if you have a job, you've got to get rid of that job if you want freedom. You're never going to be free if you've got a job. And so looking at this, what I really like about it is that if someone is only just purely passive, doesn't do anything with the binary, doesn't refer anybody, which would be hard to do, I think. When you get excited about something, it's hard to keep your mouth shut. But if just looking at the numbers, if you rolled over your account every 90 days, that's 4 times in a year. So do that, and at the end of the year, you've got 8 times what you started with in the beginning of the year. 8 times.
It's actually 16. You missed one little cycle. So if you had 1 Bitcoin you started off with today, they're saying you'd have 2 in 3 months. Well, 3 months later, you're going to have 4. All right? And then 3 months later, which would be 9 months, you'll have 8.
Okay, and then one more cycle. Yeah.
And one more cycle, just like you were talking earlier about the penny doubling every day. Once it starts moving down the road a little ways, by the end of the 30 days, I think it was like over $10 million. But you've got to get that. You got to get that snowball activity, moving in that direction. Obviously, you got to start, right? I mean, you have to do something.
Yeah.
You just want to let it. Just want to even play with it for 3 or 6 months. Just let it sit. Just keep an eye on it. They pay out every day now.
Yeah.
Every day. And it's kind of cool because in the mornings, I know around here, it's almost 9:30 here now, but at 10 a.m. where I'm at, the website goes down, and about 15, 20 minutes later, it pops back up, and then you get to see the earnings that you made from the previous 24 hours, okay, and how much Bitcoin they're sending to your wallet.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, the first time I saw that when it was 0.85, that was pretty exciting. And then when I saw it over 1 Bitcoin, and this has just been in the past week.
And that's a daily transaction for 1 day,
right.
1 day's activity. Yeah.
And I've seen people who are getting just tens of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin a day.
Uh-huh.
And those guys are guys that have pretty good size networks. But I mean, I don't have a huge network, but I'm still I'm still doing pretty good, I think, and I don't consider myself really a special person in any way other than I'm just applying some effort, just
Yeah.
being,
Well,
yeah,
when you look at opportunities, you have to evaluate the trends, and we're moving into a digital age. That's the macro trend, and you look at Bitcoin. Most of the world doesn't even know about Bitcoin, has never heard about Bitcoin. All right, yet that's the direction that things are going. So the wave is coming towards them and they haven't seen it yet. All right, so there's a huge potential out in front of this curve. Now, for the people that have heard about Bitcoin and more have heard about it, I believe very few, percentage-wise, are actually involved in it. Okay, so there's a level of awareness and an awakening to say, hey, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of that. What's that all about? How can I take advantage of it? All right, so the way I see it is that we're at really the leading edge of a huge tsunami that's building, and the trend is in our favor. The growth potential is just absolutely huge. And once people see all the benefits of moving into, a digital currency such as Bitcoin, with the opportunity to simply be passive and do nothing and watch your position grow 16 times in a year, that's pretty amazing. And then if you actually get active and start sharing the good news, you could actually, as some people are doing, potentially see that double on a daily basis. From a best case scenario. So
right.
it's pretty amazing. Now here we are at the end of March. We've seen Bitcoin come back down, retrace a little bit, and I think it's an excellent buying opportunity to catch it at a level as probably as low as we'll see it for a while. There are some pretty credible sources out there that see Bitcoin really just going through the roof in value, in the months and the years ahead. We won't get into predictions, but all the indicators are pointing in the right direction. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I have to point out, I saw somebody had said something about, the Bitcoin had come down into, I think, the low 900s. And as recently as the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been around 1,300. So this is one of the things about, the volatility is one of those things you have to look at that and say, well, for what we're doing, that's what you want. You want the volatility because that's how the traders with GladiaCoin are able to take advantage of those exchanges with some of the markets, around the world.
Yeah.
So while some people might get disappointed with the Bitcoin dropping, I continue to see the number of Bitcoin in my wallet increasing.
Yeah.
And so that's good. I like that. That's what I want, and that's why I'm with GladiaCoin at this time.
Well, it's like gold, it's up and down, and you don't buy it as an investment. You buy it to hold value because it holds its relative value against fiat currencies over time. And you look at it in terms of how many ounces or grams of gold do you have versus not what is the dollar value, because that's up and down all the time as a commodity. But if you're looking for stability, you want to maximize your position in gold. It is the same concept here with Bitcoin because I see Bitcoin being highly valuable down the road. And so, the short-term volatility doesn't bother me a bit. Well, good. Let's wrap it up. I guess that gives us a pretty good insight as to what your experience has been. You've been at this for a little while, and I'm just getting started. So I appreciate your thoughts and insights, and I'm excited. Looking forward to great things, and we'll just take it and go from there.